It's finally Friday. It's Friday, Friday.
Thank God it's
All right, welcome back to the Friday Show. I'm Scott Jagow along with Ray Paulick. Thanks for joining us. Coming up, Arrogate's future, plus is timing really everything? But first, let's talk about the aftermath of the Pegasus World Cup. Ray, you were at the event, so I want to start with your perspective as someone who was there.
It was a terrific atmosphere. They limited the Stronach Group limited the on-track attendance by charging $100 general admission and more than that for seating in the various restaurants and boxes, and even the tiki bars in the simulcast room had admission charges. So from that standpoint, everything, it was smooth. There were no lines. You had no trouble making a bet, getting food and refreshments, using bathrooms. It was a great day. If they had left it free admission like every other day at Gulfstream Park, the place would have been flooded and nobody would have had a good time. So the atmosphere was great leading up to the race, and I just think they did a good job overall in crowd control.
Yeah, and I think this speaks to the preparation that was put into this event, because if it's a first-time event, you really got to have it buttoned up, or people are going to go, wow, that was disappointing. So if people had a miserable time and stood in line and all that, and then watching the NBC broadcast, I thought it seemed like the preparation was there for this event. The broadcast was pretty good. You can nitpick here and there certain things. But my sense was they were looking to hit a home run or at least a triple so that, you're not like, oh, geez, what could have been? And then going forward, you have a much harder time getting traction for it. Now you can go, well, that was a pretty good success. Plus, it was one of the top betting cards on the year in terms of the past season, with $40 million in handle and $11 million on the Pegasus World Cup. So from that perspective, it was also a success. As far as the race goes, let's talk a little bit about that. Arrogate now in 3 races with no preps in between. Pretty convincing Grade 1 victories, shooting his earnings all the way up to $11 million in his short career. So he was very impressive. It was, of course, disappointing that California Chrome had to have a dud in his swan song.
Yeah, California Chrome, that outside post was tough. Victor had to really use the horse to get a position around. He was still 6 wide around the turn. And when they got after 5 furlongs, that's when the race completely changed. Victor was outside of Mike Smith and Arrogate, and he was urging his horse. Mike Smith was cruising along. He saw Victor was really having to work. If Victor had a horse at that point, he would have kept Arrogate pinned in on the rail behind the 2 front runners, and the race could have been different. California Chrome was done at that point. Mike swung off the rail, went 3 wide at the far turn, and the race is over from there.
Yeah, I think going forward, hopefully we can get a deeper field, some more international competition, and maybe make it a handicap, because some of these horses, frankly, had no chance against an Arrogate. They just didn't. We saw Neolithic and Shaman Ghost, our long shots we talked about, show up pretty well, but some of those horses just didn't belong there. And, that's kind of the issue with this race. With $1 million stakeholder, you got to find a horse that can be competitive to have a chance to get your money back. I know they're going to make some tweaks in terms of the rebating going forward, and that'll help. But I think the most important thing for next year is really working on the field to make it deeper and more competitive. Now, with the time of the race, that's been kind of a kerfuffle this week about Arrogate's time. The Trackus is looking into it. The Beyer speed figure has been changed. Timeform US has changed it. So what do you make about this?
It used to be an expression that time only mattered to those in jail, but it also matters to people who do speed figures and performance ratings. Personally, I don't need a number to look at to say, wow, that was really a big race for Arrogate. I saw the race. He trounced the field, and he did it in the Breeders' Cup Classic. And, he beat California Chrome narrowly in that race, but it was 10 lengths back to the third horse. And he did it in the Travers. 3 huge performances in a row. The eyeballs tell me enough. I don't need a number.
Yeah, and I think the hardest thing about time, we're so obsessed with it in the U.S. racing industry. You go to Europe, you go to Australia, they don't care about the times. They don't talk about the times. They don't time their workouts. In a historical perspective, I suppose there is some value to the time. It's just difficult to nail it down so specifically in terms of the weather conditions and the track conditions and, whether the horse was geared down or not. And just looking at that number, because Monarchos had the second fastest Kentucky Derby besides Secretariat, and he's not in Secretariat's league. So, at the same time, we have Secretariat having the three fastest Triple Crown races, and that's something people look to in a historical perspective, which is nice to have. But I think it's overrated. I wish I could argue with you about the time issue, but I don't care either.
It took 40 years to fix Secretariat's time in the Preakness and make it the track record. I think they'll fix this one a lot quicker, and it is 2017. They should be able to time a race accurately by now.
All right, so where does Arrogate go from here? What does his calendar look like this year?
Well, Garrett O'Rourke, the manager for Prince Khaled's Juddmonte, said after the race, they're using the Breeders' Cup Classic as the ultimate goal for the end of the year, and I think what he'll do is just back up from there. And they're not going to rush into any decisions about the Dubai World Cup, which, when you look at Arrogate's record of spacing races out the way Bob Baffert has done since the Travers, the Dubai World Cup would fit, but they're not going to rush into a decision, or are they going to rush the horse into the Dubai World Cup just because it's a $10 million race and this horse could be the all-time leading money winner by the end of the year.
By the end of the year, if he wins the Dubai World Cup, he'll already vault ahead of California Chrome in basically 4 races. You think about previous earners like John Henry. How many dozens of races did it take for him to earn, 6 million something?
83 starts, 6.6 million.
And Arrogate, now with the Pegasus World Cup, Arrogate has $11 million basically in 3 races. So right. It's a new era for sure. But, I think Arrogate is going to be fun to watch going forward. I hope someone finds some competition for him, because California Chrome's gone to the breeding shed, and there really isn't anyone else that stands out right now on that level in the older male division. Maybe Songbird is going to step up and face the males this year.
The horse has shown at a mile and a quarter how good he is. In the Pegasus, he showed at a mile and an eighth how good he is. Why not drop back another eighth of a mile to the Metropolitan Mile Handicap on Belmont Day and take a shot at that distance and show that he can win in top class at a mile and an eighth, and a mile and a quarter? Not too many horses have done that for a long time, and I think Arrogate's the kind of horse that at the end of his career, you're going to be comparing him to some of the greats that we've seen in the history of the sport. So why not try something like the Met Mile?
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think from a breeding perspective, how important milers are here in the U.S. To have that plus the 2 longer races, the diversity, that would really stack up well against history. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Friday Show. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.